Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Fantasy Premier League Gameweek 21 and the rest of 2024. This is one of a number of videos and podcasts this week where we'll be looking at our FPL New Year resolutions. I went first over the weekend, so do have a look back at that video. My name is Joe, and today I'm joined by FPLFamily's Lee to find out what he will do differently this year. Lee, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Joe, good morning. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all the viewers as well. How was your Christmas and New Year? All good?
Yeah, all good. Lots of videos doing.
Oh, yes.
And presents. And I finally yesterday got a chance to listen to some new music and read some comics I got. And yes, I am in my 50s, but I do get comics still.
Excellent.
I'm one of those people. Okay, before we get on with your New Year resolutions, I do have some to read out from the community. But just a reminder to everyone to do subscribe to keep up to date with all our latest videos and podcasts. And do press that like button, it really helps us out. Also, have a look at fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. We've got latest offers going on there for membership area. I think it's 7-day free trial and a 20% off at the moment, but there may be more coming. So do have a look at that. You can construct your own tables, rate my team tool, comparison tool, all these types of things to help you shoot up your mini league ranks there. Okay, Lee, before we come to your resolutions, I've got some from the community. I'll read out. See what you think. See what you think about these. George Dawes, less Calvert-Lewin in my team. Have you ever had Calvert-Lewin in your team this season?
It's a very specific resolution, isn't it? That's very specific. I thought you were going to go broader than that,
No.
George. But you know,
one player.
less Calvert-Lewin in my team. He's been unlucky, isn't he, with injuries and stuff. But he's starting to come back, starting to look better. So who knows? I haven't had him in my team this year, put it that way. But there's always time.
Yeah. No, I think the broad point from this though is injured players, is players with a track record of injury. And I always remember FPL General always had that as well. I want to be a sheet of paper in front of him at the beginning of every season. Don't get injured players with a bad injury record. And so that's why I've never had Calvert-Lewin. And so it's not my resolution, but yeah, I want to see him the whole season fit before I get him in. So I won't get him this season.
You know, it's tough though with injured players because as FPL managers tend to generally stay away, like General will stay away from those injured players. Of course, the EO therefore goes down, the ownership goes down, so that kind of entices you a little bit more to go for those kind of slight differentials. So it's a real risk reward. I have to say, as many will know from some of the videos that Sam and I do, I'm a very cautious FPL player, so I will tend to stay away from the injured players. But I totally get it. If your mentality is to go chasing those hauls and go for those kind of high risk, high reward players, I don't mind it at all.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I like to have one or two players like this, but preferably fit, working. So I've had
preferably they're going to get some minutes. Yeah.
So luckily, being a Brighton fan, I've got those sort of players that no one gets because everyone thinks they're rotation risks, but are quite good, like Ferguson or Dingra. Not now, but has been. James has got one here. It says to stop being rubbish, but I don't really know how. is that something that chimes with you?
I don't know. We've gone from completely very specific to very, I don't know, kind of theoretical. We stop being rubbish. It's a bit too broad for me, that, James. I don't know. It depends on your definition of rubbish, doesn't it? There are one or two. I have to say, without sort of, it's going to sound very sort of self-indulgent, but actually having quite a good season this year, doing quite well, up into about 60k.
Yeah.
I think if you'd have asked me half-time in the Liverpool game last night, would have had a different answer. But thanks to Mr. Salah, we're doing all right. Yeah. So I don't feel like I've made too. Oh God, touch wood. Don't feel like I've made too many bad decisions. Although I tend to do quite well early on in the season. Christmas I always find quite difficult because of the chaos around it, but more on that a bit later on because that ties to one of my resolutions. But being less rubbish, James, don't be so hard on yourself.
No, I know.
Don't be so hard on yourself. It's just the way it rolls, right?
Well, one of my well, it wasn't one of my resolutions because it's something I have anyway. But it's just a game, and by people thinking that they're rubbish because the player they picked didn't score or get sent off or misses a penalty, that's not you being rubbish, that's them being rubbish. You're just picking 15 little shirts on a screen, and those little shirts represent people who do random acts miles away. So that's not rubbish. That is just basically trying to guess.
And just compare yourself to yourself, right? I've always said this about FPL. You're right; it is a game. We all take it seriously, and that's why the community is what it is because we do take it seriously. Yeah. But at the end of the day, don't beat yourself up about stuff like that, and compare yourself to. Always try and be Oh, I was going to say, always try and be a bit of a better version of yourself. Cool. That's
Yeah,
very.
yeah,
Cool. What are we 2 years
yeah.
into the new year, Joe, and
Be
I'm
your
already kind
best,
of being
your best
quite a
self.
bit. Be your best
Live your
self.
best life.
Goodness me, already getting quite deep. But yeah, don't go out there comparing yourself
Ah,
to full-time FPLers that do it for a living.
yeah,
It's like they do it for a living, for goodness
yeah.
sake. Whereas for the rest of us, it's just a hobby, right?
Yeah, definitely. And last night's go. So to timestamp this, we're recording this on Tuesday morning, the morning after the Liverpool night before, or the Mo Salah captainers night before. Both of us here captain Mo Salah, so you can imagine our
What a roller coaster
emotions.
that was, by the way.
It was. Oh my god. That's it. I really could really do with a whole. He's missed a penalty. I'm now in minus to having one of one of his biggest hauls ever.
Yeah. Yeah, but to James's point, Joe, that's I mean, I at halftime last night, I
Yeah,
was like, I'm rubbish at it. I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
rubbish at FPL. All of my midfielders have returned,
yeah,
except for Mo, who's going to miss a
yeah, yeah,
penalty.
yeah.
Rah, rah, rah. And of course, I'm a Liverpool fan as well, so I was just ready to rage quit everything last night at half time. And then obviously, he came out and did the business second half, and all was well in the world.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
this again, it's one of those controlling your emotions thing, isn't it?
Definitely.
Halfway through a game. It's never done till the full whistle blows.
Definitely. It is fair to say Mo Salah is rubbish at penalties, though, because I have owned him.
Not the second one, he wasn't.
No, not the
Brilliant.
second one. I've owned him for so many missed penalties. Leicester, Bournemouth. I can remember the blooming opponents. Next one is Robert Smith. I hope it's Robert Smith from The Cure. He says every year I try to stay patient, and every year I end up failing. And like every year previously, not being patient has cost me more points than I've gained this year. Well, you and I are quite patient managers, and we're doing okay this season, both well in the top 100k. But sometimes I find patience can be a bit too much. Both of us have Haaland, for example, still.
Yeah, this is a good one. I like this. I like this because this is a real FPL manager dilemma. This about staying patient, isn't it? There's definitely a point here to be made about patience. I'm with you. I am a very patient FPL player, particularly in the last few years, I have to say, and in particular this season where certainly early on, price rises and falls weren't really a thing. We could kind of have who we wanted, and I feel like the game has kind of evolved over the last few years, where price rises have become a bit less of a thing. I think if I go back 4 or 5 years, I would maniacally look at, well, he's got 2% to go up before he falls up, and that made a big difference to us. I feel like the game has evolved a little bit over the last few years, where FPL towers, maybe the guys that make the game, want the more let's say casual manager to be able to pick who they want to have. So the price rise games kind of become less of a thing. It's still a thing, but it's become less of a thing. So therefore, that plays to my strengths, I think, a little bit as the way I play the game, because I'm very happy to patiently wait throughout the week for news, for teams, for press conferences, for all that sort of stuff before I make my moves. Gone are the days where I would sit there on a Sunday and knee-jerk somebody in on a Sunday night because they were due a price rise that night. I'll now ride that out and wait. So I think patience is a bit of a virtue in FPL, and I think if you can, I think in the longer term, over the course of a season, patience is a good thing, but it can be frustrating. So I do understand the point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this week's a case in point. So Mohamed Salah is off to AFCON. He's all our teams. Meanwhile, those we might want to get in are going up in price. I've got my arm. Bowen, like many people, was a replacement. And Bowen has gone up in price. Mo Salah last night went down in price. So I've already missed out there on point two. And there could be more drops and rises. But the thing is, as we're recording, Bowen is playing tonight, and there's a cup game as well.
Loads of football to go. Yeah,
so there's loads of football to go, and I might get injuries to other players as well. That mean I could just park Salah on my bench for a week. So yeah, that's why I mean it's information is more important. And I mean I've got 105.5 million team value, which for me at this stage is quite a lot.
It's pretty good, right?
But I haven't done that through early transfers, and so it's a bit. I've just got it just by the players I've got going up, really. Basically,
Are you going to hold? Are you going to hold Mo again, Joe? I mean, I don't want to go off topic a little bit, but
no.
Well, you and I have been very patient with Haaland, haven't we? I don't know whether we're going to be the same with Mo. I don't think I am.
I think even if Egypt go out in the group stages, he's still going to miss two, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I know with Haaland, so I could have got slightly more points with Haaland, but I don't think I've missed out. I've got lots of people. You probably got stick as well for keeping Haaland. Say, why are you keeping Haaland? But I haven't had too much issue with Haaland because it's missed me out on getting Alexander Arnold. I think that was the
That's
player,
the one for me. Yeah, that's the
and he
one for
got
me.
zero last night. so
Yeah, but
phew.
he's done very well in previous weeks, hasn't he? I mean, it
Yeah,
was those. I think I gambled on those pictures
yeah.
from the Middle East, right? When he's
Oh my
he's out
god.
there, he's got the boots on, he's
Yeah,
looking great, and
yeah,
he's got a thumbs up without his boots on. I think
yeah,
in the sunshine, I thought, here he is.
yeah,
He's going to be back for Everton and Sheffield United,
yeah,
and all those that have sold him are going to be
yeah,
scrambling to get him back. And as it is, Pep just wants to give him a bit of an extra rest, right? And
yeah.
I assume he's going to be back for, if not the cup games, then
Well,
Newcastle. So
the indications are that he could be back for Newcastle. That it's a very
looks
strong
like it, doesn't it?
possibility. Won't be
Looks
the
like
cup
it.
game, but it could
Yeah.
be Newcastle. I don't know whether they'll be
Yeah.
on the bench, where there'll be enough for us to captain him. But nevertheless, yeah, that's a transfer I don't have to make, and nor do you. So that is one bit element of patience that could be rewarded. But yeah, no, the point is keeping Haaland hasn't really dented my team that much because I've got, like, say, Solanke already, and he was a popular replacement people got in, and did
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay, here's another one from Bjorn Peterson. New Year resolution: never ever put Palmer on the bench. He's on
Oh,
he's
God.
on your bench this week, but you've got Haaland, so it doesn't count because he's going to come off your bench.
Yeah, this is very game week specific, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, and not many of us will be benching Palmer going forward.
No.
I almost called him Parland then, which
Yeah.
is probably quite
Well,
quite.
he may as well be.
He may as well, but the way he took that second goal
Yeah.
against Luton was unbelievably composed. I mean, I don't know what Man City were doing selling this guy, but it's just been Chelsea's best player
Yeah.
by a mile.
Yeah.
Talismanic on the penalties, everything else. So, yeah, just don't bench him anymore.
No.
You're right. I did first bench him. On the wild crazy whim that Pep was
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to pulling a fast one, and actually Haaland would be fit for Sheffield United. I thought, well, let me stick him in the first 11
Yeah.
on the 1% chance he
Yeah.
plays, knowing that Palmer will. But having said that, Joe, if I had three fit strikers, if I had Alvarez instead of Haaland this
Yeah.
week, there is a reasonable chance that I would have benched Palmer. I know a lot did,
Yeah.
because I looked at the rest of my midfield and it all looked pretty good. I looked at, Watkins and Solanke
Yeah.
and Alvarez, all very good fixtures. So those that have benched Palmer this week, again, don't beat yourself up. It feels like a reasonable decision to have made.
Yeah.
But you have to say that is going to be a big haul to miss out on. What do you get? 17, 18 points?
18 points, yeah, that's
it's a
huge.
tough one.
I mean,
Tough one.
I mean, it brings to mind two things for me. One of them is I've got a different version of Palmer, Alfie Doughty, and I benched
Love
him this
Alfie
week.
Doughty.
I know.
Love
I got
that.
his points the first week. I got him in 7 points, and then this week's 9 points sitting staring at me on the bench. It's going to stay there. So my New Year's resolution was something I said in my video, is about not underestimating these promoted sides. They've all got so Burnley's goalkeeper Trafford is sensational. Alfie Doughty is sensational at crossing and is on set pieces. And I think Sheffield United have got some organisation in them and will win and draw some games and get some points. But so yeah, my one linked to Bjorn's here is never ever put Doughty on the bench. He's like Leighton Baines, never captain, never bench.
Crossing machine, isn't he? He's a crossing machine. And I have to say, it kind of links to one of my New Year's resolutions as well, because one of the things that I've tended to do a lot more this season, because we have the tools to do it now in FPL. We have, Fantasy Football Fix, and we have Live FPL as well. Live FPL, the tool that Ragabolly has created.
Yeah.
If you don't know about it, I'm sure we can link it in the description.
Yeah.
It is brilliant, right? It is what the guy has done is unbelievably good, and it's just it's gone from strength to strength, and some of the things it can do in terms of looking at who's your star player, who's the killer though, who's the player that you don't have in your team, and all the rest of it. And I happen to check my rank quite regularly now on Live FPL, like even as an assist goes in, or a bonus point tends to change, I'm straight onto Live FPL looking at it.
Well, how's that
And
change?
it's not a bad thing. I'm not going to change it. I'm always going to be checking my rank midweek or even mid-game. But what I've got to try not to do is let it affect me quite so much, I think is my New Year's resolution, because having Palmer on the bench this week and then so at the end of Friday or Saturday? At the end of Saturday, I think it was. So before the Salah captaincy, No, it would have been then Sunday, wouldn't it? It's that. Do you know, Joe? That period
Yeah,
between Christmas and New Year, I have
yeah,
no idea what day it is half the
yeah,
time. But before the Salah captaincy haul, I didn't. So he hadn't played yet.
yeah.
I've got Areola and Bowen to go
Oh,
in
I've got your
tonight's game
team
for
up. So
West
as you're
Ham.
talking, I've got your team up on the screen,
Oh,
so
perfect. Okay,
people know
brilliant,
who you're
nice.
talking about.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so in my team, I've got two West Ham still to go. I didn't have the Salah captaincy
Hmm.
haul yet.
Yeah.
I had Palmer still on the bench, so my rank was like, I was looking at my rank, and it was like way, way down, and I was
Yeah.
just like, oh God, everyone's ahead of me. I've gone
Yeah.
way, way down in rank. But actually, I had loads to go. I had Salah captain
Yeah.
still to
Yeah.
go, West Ham still to go.
Yeah.
So I think my one of my New Year's resolutions is, don't stop using live FPL because it's great, it gives you such
Yeah. Yeah.
great insight.
Hmm.
But try not to let it affect you mid-game week. Do you know what I mean? At
Yeah.
least wait
Hmm.
for the game week to finish and then think, okay, well, this has happened, that's
Yeah.
happened. How am I going to adapt to that? And what am I going to do for
Yeah.
the next game week? So I've got to try and not let it affect me
Mm-hmm.
quite so much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's a good first New Year's resolution for you. And I mean, just on that point, I mean, I obviously use live FPL as well. And as Lee said, I do urge anyone to
It's
use it
great.
because it gives that
Really
sort of
good.
real time look. But I use it to look to see what sort of players I should be getting in, or what are the
Mm,
problems with my team. So, for example, if say for example Newcastle were keeping lots of clean sheets as they have previously done, and I didn't have any Newcastle defender. I'm looking at my rank each week, and what it tells you is the percentage owned around where I am in the rankings.
yeah, it's brilliant. Really
So
good.
if I haven't got any Newcastle defenders and they're getting a clean sheet, and two of the Trippier's 50% owned, another two of them are 30%, then I've got all of those. That's all of that is attacking my rank. So getting a Newcastle defender, a Botman, for example, could solve that. Could cut down that risk there. It's like a shield. It's the swords and the shields, and it also has a look at the ownership in terms of the reverse. Instead of those that are really well owned, those ones you can get in. So, for example, some of the ones I've got in this year, Dingra, for example, Alfie Doughty, Ferguson from Brighton.
Mm,
So when they return, you can see they're like 0.5% owned. So you're
yeah.
pretty much getting every single. You're not getting like half of those points onto your rank. You're not getting 50% of those points because everyone else has got the 50%. You're getting the whole lot. So your team is going up that full amount, and you can see it on the live FPL. So things like captaincy as well, like Mo Salah this week was 150% owned. So every one of his points, whether that was minus points for missing the penalty or getting more points in game week 20, all of those points would count. It would count against you. It's like having half a player against you, and that half a player is a really good one.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? Without this turning into a
Yeah,
hashtag ad for live FPL,
yeah,
but it'll also give you a view on which players are left to go that could affect your
yeah,
rank the
yeah, yeah,
most.
yeah,
And I like that because
yeah,
if I've got if it gives me a view, it says right, you've got Bruno's playing tonight. You haven't got him, but a
yeah,
lot of players
yeah,
have around your rank. So I will maniacally
yeah,
look at when I
yeah,
watch that game in the
yeah,
evening. I will be micro analyzing Bruno's
yeah,
performance, and actually that's a good thing because he's a player that I might be considering getting,
yeah,
or I'll be looking into how he's playing a
mm,
bit more. I'll be looking at things like body language when I actually watch him on
yeah,
TV and stuff. So, yeah, it's great talk, great talk.
yeah.
But so that's enough plugging for a live
Yeah, no,
FPL,
but
isn't it?
but it comes to the point really that I completely agree with your resolution. There is it shouldn't be used just to look at your rank and to during the week
Beat
and just
yourself
think,
up.
oh, I'm
Yeah,
really doing really badly. I'm
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
bad. Going back to those earlier points and those community resolutions, but to do look at it in terms of what your next move will be. Who are the threats? Where can you get an advantage? Where is no one investing in? No one's getting a Luton player in, for example.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. You
You're
can
in love with
identify.
Alfie Doughty, aren't you? I can
I am
tell. I
actually
can
in love
tell
with
you're
him.
a big fan.
I know. I think Az has pictures on his wall of his favourite players that got him a haul. Like Porro, I think, is on there.
You're just going to
Yeah,
have Alfie Doughty
I'm
behind you.
just going to have Alfie Doughty wallpaper, Alfie Doughty t-shirt, mask, facial surgery, everything. Okay,
Love.
what is your next resolution?
So one of the other things I was thinking about in prep for the call was, and I've said this a few times, right? I said this on a lot of FPL family live streams. I am and again, this you're going to get a feel for what sort of FPL manager I am. I've talked about being patient. I've talked about being cautious. I'm afraid to say, a really boring FPL manager. I like the long term.
Yeah.
I like planning for the future. I do not like knee-jerk reactions. And I think over the course of the 10, 12, however many years that I've played this game, probably longer, um, I think that stood me in good stead, and I've had some good rank finishes, and I think that's the right way for me to play the game. However, we get to these periods of the season, and this is why I had a couple of bad overall ranks. If you look back at my rank history, COVID was not good for me in terms of FPL, because it was double this and cancel this, and treble game weeks, all this sort of stuff. I'm not good in those periods, right? And I know that we, as content creators, we love those periods because we can go, oh, double game week this, and we create the thumbnails with bang, blank game week or best doublers and all the rest of it, and it gets us all excited in FPL. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I like the bog standard 10 fixture game week on a Saturday, Sunday, maybe a Monday. And then from, Monday to Friday, I will listen to all the different content creators, and I'll take in all the different press conferences and all the different information, and I'll react on like a Friday or a Saturday, ready for the weekend's action. So when we get to periods like Christmas, like we've just had, where we have game week after game week, and I fully feel like I'm in firefighting reaction mode. I'm not. That's not where I'm doing my best FPL work, I don't think. So
No.
I don't really know what my resolution is, but I think my resolution probably is, when we come to those periods of chaos, and we come to those periods of lots of football and FPL jammed into a small period of time. I've got to try and be calmer. I've got to try to just not react and
Yes.
firefight, and just look at and go back to my game, which is think longer term.
Yeah.
Like I bought, case in point, Joe. Sorry, this is a bit of a ramble, but case in point, a couple of weeks ago, I had to get rid of Simicast. I didn't really fancy any other defenders. So rather than, doing what I would have done probably if I had the time and headspace to think about it and go, okay, I don't really fancy any other defenders. Just put Simicast on the bench, ride it out, and go for 2 free transfers the next week. Then you'd be in a better position, Lee. That's what you want to do. I went, no. Better get Zinchenko.
Yeah.
And I already had Gabriel, so I had Gabriel and Zinchenko going into West Ham, Fulham for Arsenal. Now they got battered by West Ham, and then he didn't play against Fulham. So that is a transfer that has not gone well. So I plan to reverse that this week. Right, I will do something about Zinchenko this week.
Well, you've already said Alfie Doughty, haven't you? So you should. That's how you reverse that mistake.
I won't ask you, Joe, where I should go with that transfer. I think we know.
That's
I think
my
we
answer
know.
to everything.
I don't have Trent either, but Alfie Doughty, absolutely, yeah. So Zinchenko is going to go, but that's my point. I knee jerked.
Yes.
Oh, double Arsenal defense, got to go there. Whereas in the sort of standard game week, I might have just calmed myself down a little bit and rolled the transfer. So just being a bit calmer in these times, these chaotic periods, I think is probably my New Year's resolution again, if that makes sense, Joe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's something that I need to get better at as well. And sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes it's just beyond your control, like with the COVID issue. So, I mean, during COVID, there was nothing I could do because it just so happens so many weeks. It just so happens that all my players got COVID. And so some weeks I had hardly anyone. And other teams would have had all a full 11 going out because their players didn't happen to get COVID. And it was that kind of thing, Roxy. But yes, you're right. The thing to do is not to sort of overreact, overmanage your way out of it, and taking hits, for example. So a good example, this happened to me ages ago, and it's good it happened to me a long time ago, was I had a very bad season. I was sort of like around this period of the season, I was like 3 million, 4 million, I don't know what it was. And I could have, and I'd started reacting during all autumn, taking loads of hits to get out of it, and it was making it worse. And then
that totally does that. It does that. And FPL does that to you.
And by sort of around Christmas, I just said, right, okay, this is my 15. I'm just going to leave it, and then I'm going to do what you just suggested about parking Simicast and then taking 2 transfers. And I'm just going to do that. Hit's gone. I just barred myself taking hit. And I just shot up the rankings because people like Harry Kane, I just said, well, I've got Harry Kane. He's good. I'll captain him. And it just did, and I think it was around that period where he got lots of got lots of points, as he often does, and lots of goals. And so it's just backing those sorts of players, going back to basics, and I think that's a really good resolution there, and I think I back that one. But sometimes you can't do anything about I mean, around the COVID one, that was a really tricky one because that was happening the night before players were getting injured, but. Yeah, but then
hits are addictive though, Joe, aren't they? You're right. I mean, this is the problem. You take one and oh god, it's gonna sound awful, isn't it? You take one and then if whether it comes off or not, right? So if it comes off, you're like, great, let's do more. And if it doesn't, you almost get that sort of like gambler's fallacy of the next one will though. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm with you on that. I hadn't even thought of that as a New Year's resolution, but let's write that one down because that definitely is one. Don't get into that sort of hit spiral. And it can work. I've seen teams where, some FPL managers, they'll go hit after hit after hit, and it will just pay off every week. Well, kudos and fair play to you. But I've seen many, many FPL managers where that doesn't happen. You just get into before you know it, you're taking -12s for, players that just because you're trying to get yourself out of that hole that you dug. And it's just, you're right. Sometimes the right answer is just to go cold turkey and go, actually, no hits, forget it. My 15 is my 15. I will roll with it. And I'll roll a transfer and go with it the following week.
So, I mean, a good example this week. So, Alvarez has done okay. He's done great, but he's done okay. But this season, anyone who took a hit to get so for example, anyone who took a hit to get Haaland out, get Alvarez in, and captain Alvarez, while they still have Salah in their team, lost out on points. I'm not saying whether that's a good, bad decision. I'm just saying that is part of that strategy of I'm hit. I've got to maximise my team, But that would have cost them points, not just the 4 points, but by not captaining their best player that week anyway, they missed out on those captaincy points from Salah. So that's an example there of sort of over managing. It's just sort of trusting in those sorts of teams. And I mean, I always go back to that swords and shields thing. It's just have template picks that you like and have 2 or 3 spaces in your team for differentials. But don't have an entirely template team. Have sort of your ones. And even if they don't come off, if they're just one player. So I always have a cheap one. And it's usually a 4th or 5th midfielder, a 3rd striker, a 4th or 3rd defender. Those sorts of players. And so at the moment, I've done it again this week. Garnacho is my 5th midfielder I got in. 4 points. I mean, not great, but he's only 4.7. He got me 4 points. That'll do nicely. And it's looking at players not sort of thinking, I've got to get a double-digit haul from everyone, and because you start taking hits. And that's a really good resolution, that one. I agree with that.
I think that's easy. Maybe that's easy for us to say, isn't it? Because we are Haaland holders, Salah captainers from last night. Maybe it's easy for us to sit here and say that, Joe. If you'd have had Alvarez and Salah this week, who would you have captained?
Salah, but I wouldn't. Well, that's the thing, though. I wouldn't have got Alvarez in because I had to captain because I had Salah.
I don't know.
And to be honest, I had Son I've got Son as well, so I already had. In fact, I've got Watkins. I already had 3 good. I was already thinking, which one shall I captain?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know. I didn't have Son. I've got last 4 weeks. I decided to go Richarlison over Son the last 4 weeks or so, and it's largely worked out for me. And now I'm in that position where I haven't got to worry about what I'm going to do with Son, which is quite nice. But to answer my own question, I think I probably would have gone Alvarez, this week. I think I probably would have done because I would have targeted the fixture. That fixture had a 4-5-0 City all over it, didn't it? But I didn't, so I went Mo.
I didn't think that because it goes back to my resolution about not underestimating the promoted sides.
True.
And I looked at Sheffield United under Wilder, and I thought, they're going to get beaten. Yeah, City are better. But I don't know if it's going to be like a 5-0.
It's not going to be a battering,
I think they're going to just win, whatever, 3-1, 2-0. Something. I mean, I can't remember what it was in the end. It was something around that, wasn't it?
2-0, wasn't it?
2-0. Because and looking at the team sheet, I was actually feeling quite good about that decision not to back City because the team sheet didn't have any strikers as far as I could see. I think it had like I think Archer and everyone. I think they were all McBurney. I think they were all benched. I think it was like he was fielding 10 outfield defenders or something. So
Yeah.
oh yeah,
He'll take that, Chris Wilder, won't he?
Yeah.
2-0 defeat. That'll feel like
Yeah.
a mini win for him, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, but then for every decision, like I can sit there smugly going, oh, I didn't do that. But then the following week, that'll go against me, and there will be a 5-0 hammering, and it's like, why didn't I invest in Man City? But
How have your captaincies been, Joe? Generally speaking, this season,
Well,
because that's another kind of mini resolution that I had for the new year is around captaincy.
well, I'll put your stats up so I can tell you how you've been doing as well.
Oh, go on then.
Well, it was one of my resolutions was to get better with the captaincy in terms of looking at matchups. So this is one of the reasons I went for Salah, because Newcastle away I thought was so bad that I actually thought Salah at home against a very tired Newcastle I think that would probably be the best captaincy haul. I also thought Son would be good, but I just felt Salah. So it's things like that. And I've done that previously where I backed Salah against Brighton. So backing these really good players when the other team looks really tired, and like Brighton on the back of a European match, they were knackered. And Brighton, they're practically going to field me soon. They're so short of players. But going to your original question, so my captaincy haul, I use the FPL Statistico tool. Do have a look at that. Do put it into Google. Have a look at that. I'll try and put it in the notes as well, underneath the video and podcast. But in terms of total actual captaincy points as a percentage of my highest possible captaincy point, as in getting the captaincy right each week, I was about 50%. I was about 53% or something, getting it up. But this
is that good or bad? Don't know where about. Is that good or bad?
That's
really
okay.
I guess it feels okay.
That's okay. Yeah. It could be better, and you're an example of it could be better because you're on 59, and that's percent. And this I did this before your 32 points from Mo Salah came in. So that's going to be it's going to be high because that's going to be.
Does the tool give you a feel for how that is against the average? Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't really tell you whether that's good or bad. Is that good? 59 feels all right.
I think that's doing okay. I think anything over 50% is doing okay, and then it's a sliding scale of excellence. So your so answer to your question is, how am I good as a manager? Well, you think of how you are good as a manager in terms of captaincy. You're 10% better than me.
So on captaincy picks.
Yeah, you're 10% a better captaincy picker than I am. I feel I'm okay with
this season.
I feel I'm okay. I've got it right a lot of times, and I haven't been too swayed by the Twitter sphere. But often
have you been cautious, Joe? Generally speaking, have you been sort of Haaland most weeks, or have you been a bit?
I haven't dipped outside of the mainstays. Your Salahs, Haalands. I think Watkins got it once. Son. Maybe once or twice, but really, I'm a Haaland Salah man. So for you, how do you? Does that surprise you that I think you're actually a really good captain picker this season?
Yeah, I guess it does a little bit. Has it been that difficult this season? For me, we've had Haaland there, so I'd expect most engaged FPL managers to be. I'd expect them to be 50% plus because you've just been banging it on Haaland every week. It's not been that difficult. It's only been in recent weeks when we've had the ability and the opportunity to go against it, and I think that kind of feeds into my final resolution for the new year, which is pick the right week to go against captaincy.
Yes.
So there are, in my view, there are definitely weeks where there is an obvious captain, and if you want to swing against it, be my guest, and you'll get there's a risk reward thing there. But I'm not that guy. Again, I'm boring. I'm cautious. Whenever there's an obvious captaincy, like if Haaland was fit this week, Haaland against Sheffield United, easy.
Would have been
just
my
do
captain,
it, right? And I think for a lot of this season, I've gone largely with the consensus, right? The obvious captaincy pick. But there have been weeks, hasn't there? There have been weeks where even when Haaland's been fit, where you go, okay, well, Haaland's got, I don't know, Villa away or something, and Mo's got this, or, Son's got this, or, Watkins has got this. So there is an opportunity to go against Haaland captaincy, or there's an opportunity to swing against it. Picking those weeks is quite key, I think, and I think that's my final New Year's resolution, which is I'm not gonna I don't think I'm gonna change that. I think I'm gonna go with the standard captaincy choice as I would most weeks, but I'm gonna be very careful or take those opportunities when there is an opportunity to swing against for captaincy
Yeah.
because of fixtures or because of form. Take it
Yeah.
because that's when the field will just go, all right, bang it on Haaland again. And because you've got Haaland in your team, you're kind of hedging your bets a little bit anyway. So if he does go off, you're going to get at least his points. You won't get them doubled, of course, but you'll get points. But then if you've gone slightly differential on your captain as well, and you feel like that's a good thing to do, then obviously that can propel you up the ranks. So again, it's not one where I'd be going, okay, well, Captain Darwin or whatever, But if you've got a Mo Salah sitting there, if you've got a Son, or you've got a tried and tested FPL asset, you can swing against it.
Yeah. So Game Week 21 is a case in point. So if Haaland is fit and ready to go, him against away to Newcastle, I still think it's a really good captaincy shout because of the form Newcastle in at the moment, even though it's at home. So that Newcastle at home slightly puts me off. So, but let's say Haaland is like, well, Pep says, I hope he can play. I hope he, maybe a few minutes or something like that. That would probably put me off captaining Haaland, and for many people not getting him in. So then, exactly, this could be an opportunity to go against it. There's no Son, there's no Salah.
Yeah.
So looking at the fixtures, Bowen away to Sheffield United. I know I said about the organisation of Sheffield United, but that sort of team is the sort the West Ham could benefit against. So it's suddenly on the counter attack, and Bowen coming out. So Bowen could be a good captaincy shout that week.
I'm sorry to disagree. I don't like Bowen as an FPL pick is really good this season, but I don't like him as captain because I remember seeing a stat about he's scored in like 11 different games so far this season, which is more than anybody else because you've had Haaland getting hat tricks and Salah getting hat tricks. Great as an FPL asset, but as captaincy, that's not what you want. You don't want one goal. You want two or three because we're greedy as FPL managers, aren't we? And he tends not to get bonus as well. Bowen, he seems to dodge the bonus. So he tends to get that. He's a regular sort of 7, 8, 9 pointer, and he's in my team as well. So I'm hoping he proves me wrong against Brighton this evening. But I don't like him as captaincy. In fact, going into the next game, we're going to 21. If there's a hint that Haaland is going to be fit and available, or let's say we see him out on the pitch in some cup games, there will be a lot of FPL managers that go, Newcastle away. I'll go one more week without him, and I'll bring him back for Burnley in 22.
Yeah, they will, So
I actually like Haaland as a
going against the
differential captain. Yeah, differential captain, especially for you and I. I mean, he owes us, doesn't he, Joe? He owes us.
Oh yeah.
We should have had him for the last 2 game weeks.
If I need to see him in full training and Pep going, yeah, isn't it amazing? He's back. He's like just so amazing.
I'm not going to get that, Joe.
then I'll captain him, but I might not get that. So might be looking elsewhere. But here's another name, okay? Ivan Toney at home against Nottingham Forest, first game back. Now that is a tempter. And
he's been have to be very brave.
But the thing is, it's not a case of like he's like easing himself off the sofa after watching daytime telly for like 6 months. I've been doing the team news with Neil every week. And a lot of the updates from Brentford are Ivan Toney's been training really well. He's back training with the team. He is just training. He's a striker, a good striker, who is possibly playing for another team soon. Who knows? Maybe Arsenal going for him. But maybe. Nevertheless, Brentford are going to want to play him. And he's going to want to play for Brentford. That one game, at least. I don't know. There's going against the grain.
I mean, there's going against the grain and there's going against the grain. I mean, like I say, I'm a cautious born FPL manager. There's absolutely no chance that you'll get me captaining Ivan Toney this week. But I don't mind it, Joe.
As the trading pictures come on, I think he's in the cup. I think they're going to be. I think he'll be in a cup game for Brentford. If he scores
bit of match fitness before the Prem, then okay.
Now this is the first week of a 2-week break of FPL. Next week, if he does anything in that cup game. If Tony's
the hype will be there.
The hype will be there. We can say we were the first.
You were the first to call it out, Joe.
We were the first.
I thought you were going to say Alfie Doherty at first.
No, we were the first to make that bold and stupid move to get in a player who hasn't played for 6 months. But yeah, no, there is choices. So this could be a week to go against the captaincy. But yeah, who would just? I mean, while I'm here, but you wouldn't go for Bowen. Who would you go for in your team to captain if
I tell you what,
Haaland's
Joe,
not?
this is gonna sound awful, but game week 20 isn't even done yet because we've got West Ham.
Yeah.
I have not even looked. I
Oh,
have not even looked at the fixtures for the next game week because I know we've got 2 weeks. We've got
okay.
loads of football. Um, I think when I set my bus team, despite what I've just said, I did put it on Bowen.
That,
But listen,
yeah.
there's loads of football to be played,
Yeah.
and if Haaland is fit, it will be Haaland
Okay.
because I know
Yeah.
Newcastle. They do need a bit of a break and they will get it. But when you say break, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're on their holidays. That means they're still going to be training. There's FA Cup to be played. There's still football to be played there. So by the time that game week 21 rolls around, if Haaland is fit, it'd probably be him.
Okay. And just those stats I put up, just another stat, just quite interesting. You have played 3-5-2 15 times and a 3-4-3 4 times, but your average
Okay.
points from a 3-5-2 have been 62.5 points. So that 3-5-2 has either been whether you fielded that or whether, by injuries, substitutions, you ended up with a 3-5-2. But
Yeah.
you got an average of 47 points with a 3-4-3. So that says to me, and a yearly reminder: midfielders get more points for scoring a goal. And
Midfield is key this year.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so just a reminder. Before we go, were there any more resolutions, or have we sort of covered the key ones for you?
I think those are the key ones. Yeah, I think I'm not planning to do anything massively different. I think going into the new year.
No.
Again, the season's been going pretty well. I'm at about 60 odd K rank.
Okay.
That's before Areola and Bowen turn up and give your boys a good beating this evening, hopefully with a Bowen hat trick.
No.
Sorry.
Well, this
And if
this would
that
be
happens, then I'll be shooting up the ranks a bit more.
the history between Brighton and West Ham, that
Go on.
Brighton usually hammer them.
Oh, do they? All right.
It's
Okay.
very
Well,
rare.
we'll see about that tonight.
I
We'll see
saw
about
West
that.
Ham beat Brighton, and this goes back. This Kevin Nolan scored the winner in a 1-0, so that's
Kevin
going back.
Nolan, great FPL
And,
asset.
and of
Loved
course,
him.
they did beat them recently, but that was rare. So fingers crossed. People will be watching this
Yeah,
after this,
well,
going, "Joe is so wrong again."
yeah. Well, it'll have a lot to live up to because as a Liverpool fan, that was a roller coaster last night. But as a neutral, I'd imagine it was a really good watch, really, really good game, wasn't
Well,
it?
I
So
mean, yeah, I mean, blimey, as a non Alexander Arnold owning Salah captainer, that for me
Same.
was because when Alexander Arnold rocketed the penalty rebound over the bar,
Yeah.
that was, and I think there was another one he hit the bar as anyway, yeah, roller coaster.
And for Darwin owners as well.
Oh,
How
that's
many
just
did he miss? And
part of the course, isn't
Dubravka
it?
saved from Nunes so many times.
Can they?
You're right. We're getting used to that.
Can
Yeah,
they
we're getting
really?
used to it.
Can they really expect any more? Lee, thanks so much for joining me. There's some really good resolutions
Thanks for having
there,
me.
and also we've had some really good tips as well from you about Game Week 21, which you said you haven't been looking at, but you've actually had quite a good discussion about Game Week 21. Early discussion there. Just another reminder: do press that like button, do subscribe, and do have a check out fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for those members offers as well. Lee, thanks so much for joining me. Good luck with Game Week 21. Good luck with the rest of Game Week 20. Although obviously with 2 West Ham players to go,
Not too much.
not too much luck. So I've got Areola, so I hope he saves a penalty. Well, one of 5 penalties.
Let's go with that.
But misses, but doesn't the rest of them. Excellent, Lee. Thanks so much for joining me. See you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.